Are you feeling stuck? You know, like you're just spinning your wheels, caught in a maze, and you can't find the exit? Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're not just going to talk about that feeling. We're going to build a toolkit to help you break right out of it. We're going to dive into some really powerful mental models that can help you figure out what you truly want. Ready to find your way? Let's get into it.
It's a weird paradox, isn't it? We have more choices today than at any other point in history, but instead of feeling free, a lot of us just feel trapped, almost paralyzed by all the possibilities. You know you want to change, but the what and the how are just a total fog. It is a super frustrating place to be, but it's also the perfect starting point for our little journey today.
You know, there's this really powerful insight from Psychology Today. Most of us are way better at knowing what we don't want than what we actually do want. That annoying boss, that draining relationship, the constant stress about money, we can list those things out in a second. But here's the thing. That's not a bad thing at all. In fact, that's our first big clue. Every single "I don't want this" is like a secret signpost pointing you toward what you do want.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to start really broad and then narrow our focus, kind of like a funnel. First, we'll look at the problem of being stuck a little differently. Then we'll find our direction with what I'm calling a compass. After that, we'll draw a map to find our purpose. We'll dig deep to find our real motivations, and finally, we'll fire up an engine to actually get us moving. By the end, you'll have a whole toolkit for finding clarity. Okay, let's jump right in. This first one is probably the simplest, fastest way to get a little bit of clarity. We're going to take all that negative energy, all those things you know you don't want, and we're just going to flip them into positive, actionable statements. So here's a perfect example from one of the sources. Saying, "I don't want a spouse who doesn't appreciate me," well, that's really just a complaint, right? But saying, "I want a spouse who adores me and treats me with respect," now that is a declaration. It's a target you can actually aim for. I mean, think about it. Try it right now with something that's bugging you. Flip it from a negative to a positive. It's such a simple shift, but it is so powerful.
All right, so we're starting to get an idea of what we want. But now we need a way to navigate, right? That's where values come in. I want you to think of your values as your personal true north. They're the compass that keeps you pointed in the right direction, no matter what crazy journey you're on.
So let's get one thing straight first. Goals. A goal is a destination. It's something specific you can achieve, like losing 10 pounds or getting that promotion. You can check it off the list, and then, well, you're kind of back where you started, aren't you? Looking for the next thing? That's the problem with living only for goals.
But a value, see, that's different. A value is your direction. It's a way of being that you practice all the time, continuously. You can't just finish being loyal, right? Or complete personal growth. They're the principles that guide your choices, day in and day out. So let's look at how this plays out in real life. Losing 10 pounds? That's a goal, but it serves a much bigger value, self-care. Getting a promotion is a goal, sure, but it's driven by the value of personal growth. So think of your goals as just the milestones on a journey. Your values are the compass that makes sure you're always on the right path.
Okay, so we have our compass. Now let's pull out the map. These next two frameworks are like detailed maps that can help you find a specific, really fulfilling path in life.
First up is this amazing Japanese concept called ikigai. It roughly translates to your reason for being, basically the thing that gets you jumping out of bed in the morning filled with joy and a sense of purpose. It's all about finding real fulfillment in the things you do every day.
Now, I'm sure you've seen this diagram floating around the internet, and it's a fantastic tool for finding that sweet spot where what you love, what you're good at, and what the world needs all come together. But here's a little-known fact. This Venn diagram, it's actually a Western interpretation. It's a super useful framework, but it's not the original Japanese idea.
Okay, for a totally different way to think about this, let's talk about an old Greek story. Are you a fox or are you a hedgehog? The clever fox knows a little bit about everything and tries all these different strategies. But the hedgehog knows one big thing, and it does it perfectly every time. It rolls up into a spiky ball. So are you scattered like a fox or focused like a hedgehog? So the hedgehog concept is all about finding that sweet spot where these three circles meet. And here's the absolute key. It's not about wanting to be the best at something. It's about figuring out what you can be the best in the world at. It's about discovering that one thing that you're just wired to do better than anyone else, and then focusing on that with incredible clarity.
Okay, so you think you've found a direction, but is that really it? Is that the deep down truth?
The 5 whys is a technique that actually comes from Toyota's manufacturing process, believe it or not, and it helps you drill past all the surface-level stuff to find your true motivation underneath.
Let's use an example from Psychology Today to see how this works. You start with something on the surface, like, I'm angry because my partner is late. Okay, fair enough, but why?
Right, but why does that get under your skin? Because it's not the first time. It feels disrespectful. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. But let's go deeper. Why does that pattern bother you so much?
See, the answer is still about her, because she does this all the time. But remember, we're not trying to solve her problem, we're trying to understand your feelings. So we have to ask again, why is this so deeply upsetting to you?
And there it is. See that? That's the pivot. Because I feel discounted and not important. The problem is no longer about her being late. It's about your internal feeling of being undervalued. We just need one more why.
And boom, there's the root, the real deep down fear. Because I'm worried she doesn't really care about me. See? The issue was never about the time. It was about a fear of not being cared for. That's the real problem you need to solve. This tool helps you find the problem under the problem.
So you've done all this work. You've got your compass, your map, but now comes the scary part, right? Actually doing something about it. This last tool is the engine you need to help you overcome that fear and make those big, terrifying life changes.
This next tool is actually the framework Jeff Bezos used when he was deciding whether to quit his job and start this little online bookstore you might have heard of, Amazon. It's a really simple but profound way to make big choices. Just look at your life from the end and work backward.
The framework itself is super simple, but man, the shift in perspective is huge. Just imagine you're 80 years old looking back on your life today. Which would you honestly regret more? Trying that big thing and maybe failing, or never even trying at all? You know, the sting of failure goes away, but that nagging feeling of what if, that can stick with you forever.
And that's it. That's your toolkit for clarity. You've got a compass to set your life's direction. You've got a map to help you find your purpose. You have a drill to uncover what you truly want. And you have an engine to power you forward and help you act. You literally have everything you need to start making real, meaningful changes in your life.
Okay, the tools are officially in your hands now. The only thing left is to use them. So I'll just leave you with this one question. What's the very first regret you're going to minimize? What's the one decision you can make right now that your 80-year-old self is going to thank you for?